to another edition of Aging, Healthcare, and Everything in Between. I'm your host, Stephanie Pogue, and today we are talking to Craig Nash. He is the founder of It's a Grand Life, whose mission is to help grandparents who are raising grandchildren. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to talk to you today because I think that this whole segment of the population is overlooked, right? We talk a lot about the sandwich generation and people who are raising their own children and then caring for their grandparents and parents and all of that. But we never talk about that other segment of people who are either retired or getting ready to retire and who are suddenly raising grandkids. And you are one of them. So I think you have, just a wealth of information to share. And I have a lot of respect for you and what you're doing. So
thank you.
So tell me first about your personal journey. Like, what caused you to start It's a Grand Life, or how did that come about?
Well, I guess it started when my daughter, who was going away to college, and then unfortunately, due to some behavioral health issues and problems at school, ended up moving home and staying with us. And then eventually she got pregnant. That kind of caught us by surprise. And so we adjusted our house to make her and her baby comfortable. We wanted her to be able to complete her college education and what have you. And then unfortunately, due to some behavioral health issues and some substance abuse issues, she left our house and went to live in the inner city of Detroit for 3.5, 4 years. And we were, had a choice to make. What's gonna happen with this wonderful granddaughter? Is she going to go in the system, or are we going to become guardians? And that was really a no-brainer. So we went through the guardianship process because we found we couldn't even get homework assignments without having the paperwork. And she always kind of lived with us, but now we're more like mom and dad as opposed to grandma and grandpa. So that's what launched our journey into this. So.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of surprises that happen when you step into that primary caregiver role. Like you said, you can't even get homework without guardianship papers. Like, what other kind of challenges and things that happen in the beginning that you want people to know or that would help them?
Well, even though my wife is a lawyer, we did not understand the whole process for guardianship and adoption. And one of the beautiful things about having a podcast, which is geared toward grandparents who are raising their grandkids, is we could have those subject matter experts on the show and find out, should I go down the adoption road? Should we just become guardians? How do we do that? And do I need an attorney? And it can be overwhelming if you don't chat with the right folks. And my wife's an attorney, and we still didn't have all the answers. But imagine not being able to take your grandchild to the pediatrician, and I mean that because they can't go into school without an initial visit prior to the school year. So there's a lot of challenges that need to be navigated appropriately, and it could be very tough for grandparents who are just entering into this. We're thinking we're heading to the golf course, and wait a minute, not so fast, So life has a way of throwing you some curveballs, but it works out.
Yeah, I see that all the time, actually. People, it's different. You're just a caregiver in the home, when you're living with the kids and the grandkids. But then when you're the primary caregiver, it's all different. And I don't know, even though the resources are out there, I feel like they're hard to find sometimes. And you're trying to just take one step at a time and do this one thing, and you don't really know how to do the next. But you still have this child you have to take care of somehow. So,
well, you talk about the resources, Stephanie, and that is just a kind of a landmine a little bit. You think there are resources, but there's 2.3 million of us grandparents who are raising their grandkids. We just looked at this last week, our team here. Of the 2.3 million, the bottom 20% are living at or below the poverty line. However, the next 60% they make enough money with Social Security and other things that they don't qualify for any of that support money, yet their costs are skyrocketing, and they're having a real tough time with even stabilizing their rent payments and some of their electrical payments and other things. So it's quite tough, and that's what I'm hoping that It's a Grand Life can do, is come alongside 80% of the grandparents who are raising their grandkids and help them where they need help, because it's tragic when they're not able to. I just dealt with a wonderful lady this morning from Fort Worth, Texas, who was behind in her rent, only could pay half of her rent last month, and electrical bills in the summer are really high in Texas, so we were able to help her with her utility payment and help her with her rent to get caught up, and now she can get her car repaired. So it's you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, but there's for those folks in the middle lane there, they're not getting the support that you would think they would, and they really need it. So if you just make just enough to not qualify for the support, that can be really frustrating.
Yeah, you're right. And probably dipping into retirement funds if you had any. And then if you don't, a lot of people are going back to work, or they're trying to find a job and, take care of the kids at the same time.
It's 100%. And as you know, last couple of years, we've had some very high costs. We've had some very high inflation. Our egg prices were, off the hook there. But hopefully we can help them get stabilized. And there's nothing like, as you know, there's nothing like supporting grandparents who really need the help, and they're so appreciative. And that's I can't think of anything more fun than to bless this demographic who, of course, didn't volunteer to raise their grandkids. They just thought they'd be typical grandparents, give the kids too much chocolate and send them home. But now they're in the trenches, and they, of course, could not refuse the assignment either. So I take my hat off to these grandparents, because it's really not easy.
I agree. And I would think that there's a lot of just stress, the emotional anxiety, the stress of not knowing what to do and how to do it. Do you have any tips or advice on what people can do to kind of take care of their mental health?
Well, mental health is really, really important. And in fact, I was talking to a lady from Loveland, Colorado. Her name's Gail Engel, and she runs a phenomenal group out there called the Grand Family Coalition. And I said, Gail, what's the number one thing that we need to really come alongside these what we call grand families, grandparents who are raising their grands? And she said, we need the government to go back, and like they did in World War II, and they really supported all the munitions and what have you for preparation or for World War II. We need them to start classes for behavioral health specialists. We do not have enough psychologists. And so then I talked to my psychologist friends, and I said, what do you think about this? Do you think we could ever get a movement like this to get more behavioral health specialists? And my two psychologist friends said, well, there's a challenge with that, in that a lot of the grandparents you're talking about are on Medicaid. The kids are on Medicaid, or the grandparents are on Medicare, but Medicaid does not really reimburse well for behavioral health services, maybe $36 a visit. And when you can get over 100 with another carrier, it's $100 a visit or more. You're really going to have that's going to be tough to say, well, I'll take $36. When the cost of running a medical practice is a lot higher than that. So there are some challenges, but we really need to address the need for counseling all over the country for these, and some respite care. Grandparents need a break. They can't manage the grands 24/7, 7 days a week. So if you have relatives out there that are raising their grandkids, why don't you take the grandkids for a night and let grandma and grandpa get a night off? You want to be a blessing, and it wouldn't cost you a lot just to watch the kids, but it would mean a world of difference for those relatives of yours.
That is great advice. We could all do that as neighbors, or whatever your faith group is, or whatever. Just help out the people around you who are raising the kids. They need a break.
Yes, and I promise you, they're tired. Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
I know that very well.
Yeah, and like you were saying, but a lot of them are poverty level or below, or just barely making it, so that the resources aren't there. We found that we were volunteering at a lot of food pantries, and it was shocking to us how many people, 60s, 70s, had these babies and tiny kids, following them and hanging on them. And so, you do what you have to do, right?
Yep. One of my friends from my old church was, she and her husband, just wonderful people, just finished raising their 18-year-old grandson. He just graduated from high school I think they're 82 and 84. And and thank God they're in great health and what have you. But yeah, and of course, this is an assignment you really don't want to refuse. You want to do anything for those grandkids, and of course they did, and they've been really encouraging to the rest of us out here. But yeah, there's that little space between the folks who are really at the poverty line, who were struggling before they started raising their grandkids, what I call the bottom 20%. And then there's that next 60% of grandparents who are, they can't qualify for the subsidies, but they're really struggling because their cost of living is much higher than they're bringing in with Social Security and whatever they saved. So it's a tough spot to play in, really. And that's what I really like about what you guys are doing at St. Louis Insurance Group. You are raising funds, trying to help grandparents who are raising what you're calling the Gigi's Tribe, if I'm not mistaken, which I just love that name. And I've been in healthcare 40 years before I retired, and I told you this before we went on the air. I don't know any other organization, whether it's direct healthcare, a clinical organization or an insurance group, that's doing this for grandparents. So I just love the work you guys are doing, and just commend you. I would imagine that if folks have a choice between going to one Medicare agency or another, if they knew you were helping grandparents, they would want to come to your group. You're doing wonderful work. I can't say that enough.
Thank you. Yeah, our primary business is the Medicare business, and that's actually how we realized how many grandparents were taking care of their grandkids. And so we just thought that was a way for us to give back. And it started small. We were, just people that we would run into through the agency is who we were helping. And it's gotten bigger. And now, because you see other people who are helping. But we do kind of the fun things. We like to give money for athletic fees or dance classes or art supplies or some of those kind of things. While the grandparent is concerned, as they rightly should be, with the health and the shelter and the rent, and the food.
Little things.
We like to bring in some of those fun smiles and some of those, that stuff that the money's not always there for. So.
Well, with you guys doing that, they may have put those activities, those fun activities that really make a kid's life fun, they may have put that on the back burner. We can't even think about the soccer or the baseball league or the basketball shoes. We just can't afford it. But no, that really makes life sweet if the kids are able to do those fun events. And it's really good for grandma to get her out of the house and go to the flag football game or the soccer field and run into other folks doing the same thing. That's wonderful.
Yeah. And have the kids go to the summer camp during the day. Get a little break during the day too. It's helpful.
That is so helpful.
So I know a little bit about the mission of It's a Grand Life, but how does the program work, and where is it now? Where do you see it going?
Well, It's a Grand Life started over lunch with your producer, Ryan Armbruster. We went to lunch and I said, Ryan, I have this idea, to have a podcast for grandparents who are raising their grandkids. And we had, this was at the end of 2022 when we were in the full swing of raising our granddaughter. I said, Ryan, do you think this is a good idea? He said, it's a great idea. I'll help produce it and help you find some platforms to put it on. And we were off and running. And then the more folks we talked to, very similar to what you're doing, Stephanie, then we realized the need of support for these grandparents. We said we need to have a 501c3 so we can come alongside grandparents who are really struggling. And so we started that in August of last year, and we're really learning every day how to hopefully pick the right folks to assist, and also to raise the appropriate funds so we can help as many folks as possible. But right now we have at our website, it's a grandlife.com. We've got all of our old podcasts. We've got all the information on some of the media exposure we've had, but also all of the folks we've helped through the grant fund, and an opportunity to donate to the grant fund. And we can't do this without support from folks all across the country, and the need. We keep getting more and more aware of how many folks really need the support, but I'm just trusting that when we hear of folks that have a need, that we'll have the resources to help them. But I'm in my late 60s now. I'm not no longer in the healthcare world, and I can't think of anything more fun to do, Stephanie, than to get a check to a mom or a grandma or a grandpa who's really in deep weeds. It is so impactful, and it just touches their heart, and that touches my heart. It's so cool.
It is a great way to spend the next chapter of your life, right? You're no longer working. This is a great way to give back. And even though you were thrown into the situation a little unexpectedly, you've made the best of it. And I know that your granddaughter is so happy with you and loves it. You guys are doing a good job.
My granddaughter is in the middle school years now. So she was telling me last week, Papa, you're old. So I think she's a very healthy middle schooler. So we've still got to work out some issues, but she seems to be happy, and she's doing well in school, and she's made some nice friends, and she doesn't feel, at least I can't pick up how she feels like she's different than the other kids. She feels like she's integrated in the middle school. She's got some good friends. The parents have been very receptive to my wife and I, and it's been a huge blessing.
That is very important. I know my sister had a stroke a while back, and so my nephew, I've always worried about him feeling different than the other kids, and we do everything we can. She actually lives with us too. We adjusted our house for them, just because I don't want him to feel that way. So I know what you're saying.
Yeah, because it in their mind, it affects their mental health. They don't want to be different, so that's a good thing. Yeah, what a good sister you are. That's hey, we got to do what we got to do. We got to get my sister in here and got to adjust the house, and what a blessing. That's what it's about.
Well, I love what you guys are doing, and they can go to your website. People can go to your website for more information and a lot of good resources.
Yep, a lot of good resources. What
is the website again?
It's agrandlife.com.
And then they can also support you there if they
can. We've got a donate button, and it's just very easy to do that. They can support us monthly, or they can make a one-time gift, and just know that every dollar, other than some very minor IT costs, are going to support grandparents. I mean, there's no salaries or overhead or anything. We want to make a difference across the country, and we're currently in, I think, 11 states. And Lord willing, hopefully partnering with our friends in St. Louis to help some families there. So it's a grand life when you're helping others. It really is.
Thank you, Craig, for joining us today on aging, healthcare, and everything in between. I really do appreciate it. And we look forward to bringing you more content in the future. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Aging, Healthcare, and Everything in Between podcast. Please share this podcast so that others can benefit from the content. Please also leave reviews, as feedback is important to me. And if you have any suggestions for a future episode, email them to s.pogue@stlouisInsuranceGroup.com. Thanks again for listening, and I look forward to bringing you more valuable content soon.